is a privilege to welcome Marie Martin Murphy and Claire Reyes to this episode of Living the Farm Life. Marie is the Director of Educational Opportunities and Student Success in the College of Pharmacy, and Claire is a third-year professional student and the president of the Pharmacy Student Diversity Council.
Absolutely.
All right,
Yeah, you got it.
Very long titles. I was crossing my fingers I got them right. I'm so glad to have you guys here today, though. Thank you so much for being here.
It's an honor being here. It's really a privilege. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. So excited to be here today. So we are sitting in this amazing space at Purdue University, the Black Cultural Center.
It is.
It has so much connections to students as well as faculty and staff, and I'm really glad that we get to be in this space today.
Yes, yes.
I know. Just one of the things that I love the most about Purdue is how everyone has a different background, and we all come together from so many different places around the country and around the world. And I love hearing about everybody's backgrounds. Would you both be able to tell me more about your backgrounds?
Most definitely.
Yes, of course.
I don't mind starting.
Yeah.
So I have a really rich background when it comes to culture, and so I was born in the Bahamas, but my parents, both of my parents, were born and raised in Haiti, and at the age of 25, during the Papa Doc, which is Jean-Claude Duvalier, the father, during his reign, they left Haiti and moved to the Bahamas. And that's where my parents had children. And so I was born in the Bahamas. I lived in the Bahamas until we were teenagers. And then my dad decided he wanted to move to the United States because he wanted a better life, even better life for us. So he moved and brought us in here to the United States. So even I have a rich religion background as well, because my mom practiced voodoo, which is in Haiti one of the most popular religion there as well. So was able to see that, and then my dad then converted to Christianity, and my mom later on in life converted to Christianity. So even that was a rich experience for me as well, and taught me a lot. Yeah, so.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
So I don't think my background is quite as entertaining, but I was born and raised in southern Indiana, specifically the town of Sellersburg, which is a 20-minute drive from Louisville, Kentucky. So I grew up kind of close to that city, but not necessarily in it. And both of my parents are from the Philippines. They immigrated here in their 20s. So I grew up with the Filipino culture. I unfortunately was not able to pick up Tagalog, which is the language of the Philippines. But now that I'm like 22, my parents are more like, oh, I guess we can teach you. So they've been like slowly like giving me bits and pieces to help me learn, and like telling me to go like wash my hands or something in Tagalog. So I'm picking that up slowly but surely. But southern Indiana isn't a super diverse area, but we had our own Filipino community there anyways, because I grew up going to 13 years of Catholic school, and the predominant religion in the Philippines is Catholicism. So we met other Catholic families through church and through my parents' work. They're both physical therapists. And we have like, I want to say like 6 to 7 other families in this Filipino group of ours. And my siblings and I were the oldest of the group, so we grew up taking care of all the other kids, and we got to watch them grow up. One of them's even here now at Purdue, and that's really exciting to see. I feel really old though. But it's really, really nice to just come to Purdue and kind of see a new viewpoint, because southern Indiana is very small, mostly white, and whenever I got to Purdue, I was just like, oh my gosh, there's so many people like me here. And I joined the Purdue Filipino Association as well to kind of immerse myself more in the culture and learn about other areas within the Philippines, because the Philippines is a ton of islands. And my family, so my dad is from the main city, Manila, and then my mom is from more of the southern islands. And getting to learn about like all of the different parts of the Philippines really brings me a lot of joy and helps me feel closer to my identity. So that's kind of like my cultural background. Yeah. I think that's a good one.
So tell us about your background, Isabella, as well.
Yeah.
I love hearing about the different areas and the background from everyone.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
I'm from Rhode Island. My parents were both born and raised in New England as well. My mom grew up in Massachusetts, kind of right outside of Boston. And my dad also grew up in Rhode Island,
Oh,
about
wow.
like half an hour from where I live now, with traffic. We always say it's half an hour with traffic. It's always 2 hours with traffic. It's just if you're heading anywhere near Boston, it's the distance with traffic.
I visited Boston, Massachusetts a few years back, and it is crazy. You're right. It's like a 30-minute drive took us over 2 hours.
Yes,
So, yeah.
yes, it is. It's a very different culture than
is.
Indiana. So that was kind of a shock for me moving out here. It's a lot softer, I think is the best way to describe
So
it.
Indiana is softer
Yes, than Boston.
than Boston. So
Yes.
explain that to me, please.
It's very not necessarily aggressive, but
Okay.
it's more of a pointed culture.
Yes.
You're walking down the street and everybody's like very loud, very not aggressive, but very assertive.
Yes. Yeah.
And I feel like Indiana's a little more laid back
Yes.
of
that's
a
true.
culture, which was
Midwestern
very
hospitality.
yes.
Yeah. Everyone's so nice.
Yes, everyone is very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
People in Boston are nice in a different way. People in India are above and beyond. I remember when I toured Purdue in February 2020, it was freezing outside. It was like absolutely the coldest day ever. And I really wasn't expecting that coming to like Boston is cold, but Indiana that day was
Was the
cold.
cold.
Yeah, that was cold. And we were staying at a hotel up the street, and we had no idea where we were going to go get dinner. So my mom went to the front desk and she asked, "Oh, do you have any good recommendations?" And the woman behind the desk pulls out a map, starts tracing on the map all of the different places. She was like, "If you want to walk to this one, it's about a 5-minute walk. You could drive to this one, it's about like a 10-minute drive. Take this road." She's giving us all the directions, and I was like, this is crazy. This is absolutely wild to me. We don't do that back in New England.
They're not that nice.
No, well, someone will say, can you give me directions? And it's like, oh, you want to bang a Yui where the old
What a
where the old like something used to be. Yeah, that's what we say. Take a U-turn, bang a Yui. Yeah, bang a Yui. That's a U-turn. And it's always based on old landmarks that don't exist anymore. So if you had like a store that closed down, that's now the landmark. The sign is gone. The sign is gone, but that's the landmark you use to give directions.
And it's up to you to figure it out.
Exactly. It's like, oh,
That
you
is
know where the Almax
hilarious.
used to be? That's where you want to take a turn. We also count by Dunkin' Donuts, which is
Wait.
a very different culture than here.
I tell you, what does that mean?
It's drive past 2 Dunkin' Donuts and then take the next right. That's how we do directions. Is based on old landmarks and Dunkin' Donuts. So that's my cultural background. Is old landmarks, Dunkin' Donuts, and just the New England flair.
I thought that would be nice, but
Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts.
But Claire, I really loved when you were talking about all of the younger people earlier and how it
yes.
makes you feel so old.
I feel terribly old.
I know.
Okay, wait a minute. You guys are talking about old, and I'm
It's just year 5 on campus, and I'm looking at all the freshmen, and I'm like, wow, they're so young, so full of life, so just determined, and I'm like, this is I'm like, I'm
Where
ready.
did that spirit go for us?
Yeah.
I know. By the end of the day, I'm like, whew, I'm ready to go home to my cats, sit on my couch. And then I was talking to a freshman the other day, and she was like, oh, I'm going to this club, and I'm going to that club meeting, and then I might go out. Some of my friends are going out, and I'm like, whew, I'm tired just listening to you. Ripe old age of 23. I'm like, I'm
Wait.
ready to go home.
You're 23.
I'm 23.
And how old are you?
I'm 22.
Okay.
And I'm ready to go home.
I have a granddaughter you guys' age, okay? So when you start talking about old,
Spiritually, we get older.
Yes, yes, in
I'm
my
like,
heart.
or is it just pharmacy that makes you feel old?
Maybe all of
be,
it.
it could be the pharmacy.
I had a lot of
guys are too
memories
funny.
like coming down to the Black Cultural Center because I used to live in Hillenbrand, and I would always walk past and up and down 3rd Street going to lab, going to classes. So it was very nostalgic, like walking down the street and being like, I used to walk down this every single day, almost get hit by a bike.
That's an everyday thing.
Yes, and then it's still, that hasn't changed. I still almost got hit by a bike.
Yes.
Either by my own error or by the bikes, I don't know.
That was exactly me walking over here. I was like, I'm a senior citizen around here.
So you're P3, right?
Yes.
Which is professional 3rd year, so
Yes.
5 years.
5
here.
years on
So
campus.
what have you noticed differently throughout the year from 5 years ago, what you're seeing now and what you've seen through the 5 years being here, and changes in diversity, the group of students, the way they dress, you're comparing yourself. So
Yeah.
what have you seen it's changing or have changed?
I feel like for me, well, we started here in fall of 2020. So I feel like when we got here, everything was very like disjointed. I felt very like everything was very separate, but that was also me coming to a new place during a pandemic.
Yeah, because I was like, 2020, that was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So,
I felt everything was very like segmented, like everything had a place and there was no interconnections, because I mean if you mix too many things then you run more risks of COVID spread and
Yeah.
everything else. So I feel like starting here in that time was kind of isolating. I met Claire though. She was really my first friend here on campus. So I lucked out with that. But it was kind of a difficult time, but I feel like in the last 5 years I've watched more things connect, more
Yeah.
people interacting.
Yeah.
And I know I've been able to see more things, do more things than I did 5 years ago.
so 5 years ago when you started, you talk about the period of COVID, and everything were kind of like isolated.
Yeah.
How did you feel like you belonged? And, because I know as a student being on campus away from home during the pandemic, you must feel like I need to feel like I fit somewhere. How was you able to get that during the pandemic?
Yeah, I joined a lot of different organizations. One of the ones I was in that I participated in the most was band. So I was in the marching band in the fall, and then I was in the concert band in the spring. And that for me was really like, I got to meet people outside of my major. And band was a lot more, it was easier to interact with people than in a classroom setting, because you just like throw a pencil at the person 6 feet away from you. You say, "Hey, what measure are we at?" Versus like in class, like you're just everybody's head down taking notes, very very intent. But in band, it's a little more relaxed. So I found that to be a really good setting for me.
Wow.
What about you, Claire?
Well, for me, it was pretty similar feelings that I experienced as you did, Isabella. I definitely felt very like alone, isolated. It was really hard to like make friends because we were forced to not. We were told like you have to stay away from each other. You guys are all gonna get COVID. And I was like, well, that's true, but also I'm at college. Like, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to sit inside my dorm all day? Well, it's kind of what they wanted, but like we couldn't really do that. But I was very lucky to participate in BGR, And I made a lot of my first friends through BGR and that first week of school. One of my closest friends today, she already graduated last year. Her name's Abby, and she was on my floor, and we first met through, we had like a group Zoom call to like get to know the people who were already on campus. And during that Zoom call, Abby was like, "Oh yeah, I'm here. Like, if you guys want to come say hi, like feel free." And so I immediately like ran down the hall with my suite mate, and I didn't even knock on the door or anything. I just barged in. I was like, "Hey." And I was like, "She said that we didn't have to knock and just to come in." So I just walked right in. So she was one of my really good friends that I made through, even like with the COVID restrictions. And then I made some really good friends through BGR. My good friend Shayna and my good friend Kate, like they were all people I connected with in BGR, and we've stayed friends until this day. So Purdue had its like restrictions with COVID, but it also still gave me opportunities to connect with those people despite the fact that we were going through a pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, I did meet Isabella in a similar way.
I was just thinking, I feel like you barged into my life in a figurative way. There were no doors there.
There were no doors. It was just biology inside of Lily basement.
I remember getting lost trying to find that room in the basement of Lily. I remember going down the hallways, like looking at all the numbers, and I'm like, I feel like I'm going the wrong direction. But then I turn around and I'm like, I still feel like I'm going the wrong direction.
Yeah, that building would lose you.
Yeah.
And
So,
yeah.
so it shows the importance of feeling like you have a friend and you belong. So yeah, you should. So how different now do you see with no more restrictions, and how is it now? And what do you think we can learn from what happened during COVID, if that was to happen again, and how to draw, make our students feel less isolated and more like, like they belong? What could we do differently? Or what could have we learned? What can we learn from that?
Yeah.
Well, I think like part of like the change that I see now from COVID to now, it's honestly astronomical, the connections that people have made. Like, I never thought that I would get to see people so close. I feel like our current pharmacy class isn't as close as the other one since we didn't get to have as much connection in those formative years of pre-pharmacy. And I can kind of see like the disjointedness within our classmates. But whenever I get to interact with the younger classes, I'm just like, wow, you guys like all know each other so well. You're goofing off together, you're making memories, and that's really nice to see. But like part of the like lesson we can learn from COVID is that online really just isn't enough to like make a connection. As much as we try with Zoom and technology to make those connections, it's just not the same as in person, where you get to see the physical person, gauge all their reactions, really see them for who they are, versus like a screen really blocks that, and people can still filter out what they want to show you.
Yeah.
So that's I feel like an important lesson that we've learned since COVID.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think showing your whole self is really important. I remember the first time, I think we went to Chick-fil-A, was the first time I saw you without a face mask on. And I was like, oh, that's not what she looks like. And so I think just like physically showing ourselves and just like personality-wise, I think is so important. And I feel like there was a lot of fear in the time of COVID, which of course there was fear. But I know for me that really impacted like the willingness to make connections. So I feel like if something happens again, we need to be able to like mitigate that sort of fear aspect and be able to push through at least a little bit, like put yourself out there. It's gonna be fear in anything you do, but we still have to push through to make connections and succeed.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. It was a really interesting experience for us, and I think a lot that we needed to take away from that. And you, like you said, removing the fear, and the importance too of that connection, meeting different peoples from different background, you know. So the importance of all of that. Yeah. Wow. Now, what do you guys do to feel like you belong at Purdue?
Oh, wow.
Now that you've passed that COVID, which was a challenge for
right,
you
yeah.
connecting, what do you do now, and how do you help the incoming students who, you know, want that connection as well? How do you support them in feeling like they're a part of?
Yeah. I guess for me, the way that I kind of like help myself feel like I belong, I've made some really, really great friends since freshman year, and I've stayed close with them. So I kind of maintain those friendships. I'm very intentional with who I hang out with, and when I spend time with them, I make sure like we're focused on each other and we're still continuing to grow with each other. And it's not just about like, it's not just a connection to have a connection. It's because I care about the person and they care about me. So that's how I kind of make sure I feel a sense of belonging in my own community. And then in the sense of like my cultural identity, I participate in like external clubs. The Purdue Filipino Association is one of those, where I can connect with people who have a similar background to me, where they also grew up with immigrant parents and they didn't quite grow up with the language, or they picked up stuff here and there, and so we're all just trying to piece ourselves together to make it like all make sense for us. So trying to like find those people and putting myself out there despite being like scared of everything, not really knowing, like I don't entirely know who I am still. I'm still learning that every day, but kind of giving a piece of myself to others and they're giving a piece of themselves to me, that really helps me feel like I belong. And the Student Diversity Council is kind of my way of giving back to the students and trying to help them find their place, because I never want anyone to feel alone or like they can't be themselves, because that's terrible. I've been there. I don't want people to be like that. So the Student Diversity Council is a space for people to really welcome themselves and kind of explore who they are and like why they do what they do, what their purpose is. And I try to encourage people to not judge, to always have an open mind. I want to educate people about like the various cultures around us and how they influence all the different aspects of our lives. There's not just one singular culture that defines everyone. And your ethnicity also does not define your culture. Your culture is made by everything around you. So I feel like the Student Diversity Council really helps me to bring that to other students as well.
Yeah. And just making sure that they have a seat at the table.
Yes.
To be a part of discussions that's going to create changes as well. Yeah. Which is excellent. Yeah, that is excellent. And
How do you do that in your role? Like help with the making seats at the table, making students feel belonged.
so that's an important piece for me personally. When my parents moved from the Bahamas to Miami, Florida, and this was during the 1980s. During the 1980s, there was a lot of, it was interesting because a lot of the Cuban at the time, I don't know if you guys know the history of when Castro, so a lot of students, the Cubans were leaving Cuba and coming to the United States, and they would give them citizenship, whatever. So Castro decided, oh, you want take my people and get, so he put them on a boat, like people from mental health, like got all the mental health people from the mental health hospital, prison, put them on a ship and then sailed them over to Miami, Florida. This was the 1980s. As a matter of fact, have you guys watched the movie Scarface? This was in the 1980s. Scarface from the 1980s.
I have not.
Okay. So there, part of that was like loosely based. Like one of the guys, the main character was one of the guys who came on the ship and started the crime rate went up and so forth. So that was going on, and then in Haiti they were having some political uproar there as well. So both countries, and so the Haitians were also taking the boat to Miami. So we had the Cubans and the Haitians, and then there was a lot of political uprise going on, and so here it is. I'm in the middle of this. We live in Little Haiti in Miami, Florida. And it was a lot of tension going to school. It was being called names because you're Haitian, and so forth. And then right afterwards, AIDS came up, the AIDS, and so now they're saying that they call it the 5H disease. Homosexuals, Haitians, if you taking drugs intravenously, and some other 5 things, negative things, that you're more likely to have AIDS. And so that also put a negative stigma on being a Haitian person. So here it is as a teenager trying to figure out, who am I? Where do I belong in all of this, craziness? And so, learning how to especially going to school, to function through all of that. And then being able to find a place where you feel like I belong. I'm somebody. I'm important. I have a voice to say, no, what you're saying is not all that it is. There's more to who I am as a person. And so growing up trying to figure this out. So when I came to college, I learned that, there are others as well who have other opinions. Because I felt like I was living, when I went to college, it felt like I was living in this prison, and education, college gave me a key, unlocked my mind, and I was able to find and see different perspective because of my conversation with people from different countries, different backgrounds, and so forth. And the wealth of all of that, I always said I will give it to my children. And then I started working in higher education, and I decided, you know what? This will be great to give to students coming in as well, to let them know that we can learn from each other through our differences. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can be a positive thing. And even research shows when you're working with individuals from different backgrounds, how much more successful your organization or your project, whatever you're doing, can be. So I wanted that for my students. So that's what I bring now to this role, and that's why I created the Student Diversity Council, because I wanted all of the students from different backgrounds to come together and know that they have a voice, empower you to know that you have a voice, you can make a change, okay, and you can use your differences to create that change. And so that's kind of what I bring to not only, my role at the college, but also in my personal space as well, too. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I know that for me coming to Purdue, like I said, first year it felt very, very isolating, very quiet. And the last 5 years, thanks to all of the services at Purdue and all of the support I've received, I mean, I do this, so I'm not quiet anymore.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's especially too, we have the peer mentoring program. And the peer mentoring program also came out of first year students. It is the most challenging period. You're leaving home, coming to a new environment. Some of our students, for the first time, being away from their family or their parents, and they're in this, place, and it's like, well, how do I feel like I belong, or how do I maneuver through all of this? And so I was like, if we have a student who've experienced it, they guide that new student through it. I think that's how we can help our students to be successful. And so that's how I developed the peer mentoring program when I got here. And it started off with about 25 students. And then the following year, I recruited 2 pharmacy students and asked if they would like to help me structure it in a way where I wanted to be run by students, not me, because it's you with the solution. Mostly the students have the problem. Well, let's use students to come up with the solution. I'll just be there to guide you. And so that's how we developed the mentoring program. Now every year we have 100 students that's a part of the peer mentoring, and that's our maximum. And so a lot of the students would ask, can I get a mentor? But I don't have the capacity yet to go beyond that 100 student. So another way of supporting our student, especially again, the first year student, is we have the pharmacy education program. And the pharmacy educational program is one where students during the summer, they're on campus for 6 weeks. And we use that time to kind of get them assimilated, learn the campus. They can take up to 9 credit hours. Every week we have an event. They're building relationships, not only with students from the College of Pharmacy, but students from different areas of the college. And then we have field trips. I take them to IU Health because I collaborate with the director for the pharmacy at IU Health, and he every year I bring the students. They get to meet pharmacists at the hospital. They get a tour of the hospital. Last year we went to Walgreens manufacturing plant where they were able to see robots filling prescriptions. Yeah, and then we also go to Eli Lilly. We visit Eli Lilly and learn about, the industrial pharmacy. So here it is, the industrial pharmacy, different areas in pharmacy that students learn before they even start class. And every Tuesday we would have dinner with them. I would invite alumni and faculty for dinner with them as well. Another way they're connecting before they even start class. So, yeah. And so now the next project we're working on is Near Peer, where we have alumni that's graduated within the last 10 years to now mentor the mentors who's mentoring our mentees right now. So I'm excited for that. And then another thing I noticed is that the first year students learning, again, how to study, their time management, all of that. So they're having challenges in the classroom. And so we have the early alert system that we're piloting right now. Week 5, send a notice to the faculty to say, hey, we have one of our students here. We just want to know where they are, if there's a barrier, if they miss some test, or, miss lab, if they're missing class, please let us know what's going on. So I did that. I got a response for about 7 students. Reach out to their advisor, because I worked with the advisor as well to let them know this is happening, and they're also notified as well. So I'm notified, the advisor's notified. I meet with the advisor. Hey, what's going on with the student? Are you aware of this? And then the advisor and the advisor come up with a plan, what we think the student may need. Then reach out to the student, say, hey, faculty sent a notice, there's something going on. Can we meet so we can, come up with a plan for you so you could be successful? And so you meet with the student, and then we contact the peer mentor. So the peer mentor now holds them accountable every week when they meet with them. So it's this different group of individuals collaborating to make sure that our students successful the first year of college. So this is all a part of how do we make our students feel like they belong, that they are part of, that someone cares about me, you know, and so. That's how.
I love hearing about these resources for students,
Yeah.
especially I feel like sometimes I don't know all of the resources. So I love hearing about them. That way, if I ever run into somebody, I know where to direct them.
Yeah, yeah, and Purdue has a ton of resources
Yeah.
for our students. It really is. I've worked in Florida in higher ed. I've worked in the Metro DC area in higher ed, and then I came and I work here at Purdue. And I must admit, they do have a lot of resources. It's just, you know, us making sure that we're making sure that students are aware of these resources, you know, that can help them to be successful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I completely agree, and I hope this podcast helps highlight some of those resources.
Absolutely. And, you know, making sure students are aware. You can go to your advisor. You know, don't be afraid to ask for help. The advisors can help you find the resources if you're struggling with something. For instance, met with one of the students and he's like, yeah, I'm struggling in the class. I just can't seem to, he says he does well studying. When it's time to take the test, it takes forever for him to process the information and have enough time, sufficient time to take the test. And so I asked him, did you have a plan, a learning plan when you were in high school? He says, yeah, I did because I had a speech impediment and there was some other stuff going on. And I said, well, did you talk to our disability resource center? No. And I was like, that's a resource to help you. And again, it's having that conversation with the students so we can be aware of there might be something going on. Let's explore this some more, and then presenting them with different options.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. I
Yeah.
know I rely on my academic advisor all the time, arguably too much. I'm worried he's going to see my email name pop up and be like, ah, not as a,
I don't
not
think
as
they
Bella again."
ever, they don't ever
No,
feel that.
he's always excited to see me. He's fantastic, but that was one of those things that I didn't rely on him until after I started in the professional program
Yeah.
when I should have been sending him so many emails, scheduling meetings all the time. But that's one of those things that I know now that I should have had more conversations earlier. But I think that's fantastic advice for students.
Yeah. it
Claire,
is.
do you have any advice you would want to give to either current students or prospective students?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I mean, it's kind of hard to say because I'm still learning something new every single day. And even though I'm a fifth year, I don't know everything. And I guess maybe my advice would be that you're not going to know everything and you don't have to. It's all about the journey and really just like making the most of it. I want to say that these 5 years have absolutely flown by. Like, it's crazy. People will tell you all the time, like, it's going to go by so fast. I did not believe them. And here I am just like, oh my gosh, I'm here. I'm so close to graduating. And I wish I had savored more of the memories that I made with my friends. I had been more intentional about learning all the things in class. Like, it's not just information to learn. It's something that matters. It's something that will be important to your career. And having the passion for what you're learning about. Education is a privilege, and not everybody gets to have it. So I guess my advice, to sum that all up, would be don't take anything for granted. We are only here for a short amount of time. So enjoy every moment that you can. If it means like spending an extra hour with your friends instead of studying, do that. It's worth it. I promise you in the end.
and for incoming students too, who it's finding your tribe. I think that's what it is for you to be successful here is first of all you have to find your tribe. Find the individuals that encourage you, that, the group, the organization, find that. And I think that'll be the first step of being successful, at Purdue. It really is feeling like you belong here.
We've talked a lot about what we have here in the College of Pharmacy. Could you tell me more about what our resources look like across Purdue's entire campus?
So across campus, it all looks different for each college. They all have their own way of bringing people together or finding resources or creating resources for our students. So it's going to look different at every college. And that's where it takes students talking to the advisors to figure out what resources that they need at that moment for their studies. So that's yeah. So it all looks different from there. I know for us here in the College of Pharmacy, again, the focus is being a family, being supportive of each other, making sure that all of our students' needs are being met. So we try to in every way, which way, see what our student needs are, and making sure, especially in my area with the now that my role has changed. So it's not that my role has changed, my title has changed. So I was the director of diversity initiative, but then we wanted the landscape, the DEI landscape has been changing. And so because that has been changing, we wanted to focus more on how can we support every student in our community and make sure that every student has an opportunity to be successful. Again, that's what the land grant mission is about, and that's what Purdue is about. So we definitely focus on the land grant mission. So it hasn't our focus on, making sure every one of our students successful and their needs are met. That's not changed.
Yeah.
So
Across the country, this landscape is changing,
Yeah.
so it's great to hear that Purdue is still staying above and beyond in our goals of supporting students in this space.
yeah, yeah, we're still staying true to our mission. Yeah, Purdue is still staying true to their mission, making sure that every one of our students are successful and they have a seat at the table to say, and that's where Claire comes into play with the Student Diversity Council as well.
Yeah. Claire, do you have anything to add about anything you've seen happening across campus in these spaces or even across the country?
Well, I want to mention like recently across the country, they've done a lot of changing with what diversity looks like in public universities. So the Student Diversity Council, luckily, is not as affected since we are a registered student organization with the Purdue. And I'm very grateful that I can still have this space to talk about difficult topics with our students and to also just allow them to bring questions or concerns to us if they have any ideas about or suggestions about changing what the College of Pharmacy looks like in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion. And part of the problem right now is that it's kind of a slippery slope. We have to be careful about what we say, we have to be careful about what we do, just because across the nation, they're kind of eliminating the diversity, equity, inclusion committees.
So far, it's 28 states have banned the DEI
Yes.
programs. Yeah.
28 states. That is many. That is more than half of the country. And it's quite concerning in my eyes because diversity, equity, inclusion is something that is essential to every college campus. you have to have it.
Yeah.
It enriches our students. It enriches the life, the culture of the college.
Yeah.
So I guess that's really like what I'm seeing across the country, and I'm hoping going forward Purdue continues to preserve our focus on diversity, equity, inclusion. I know it will be a little bit difficult in terms of like looking at it from an upper level versus like at the student level, but I'm determined to do so through the Student Diversity Council and all of our other student organizations like SOUP or SNAFA, all of those. Those are other resources for students to turn to if they need help or if they need to express something related to it.
Yeah. But again, we're still promoting inclusion and making sure that every single student feels welcome in the College of Pharmacy. And our dean, Dean Barker, he is so, he's such an incredible ally for our students, and he makes sure that the space here is welcoming, that our students feel like they belong. He really does. So it has been a joy working with him and creating the space for our students. So
Thank you both for talking on this. I know this is really a developing issue across the
It
country,
is.
and I know it's a big topic here at Purdue, so I'm glad we could share some more light onto what's happening here.
yeah, there's still so much that we don't know and still going on. So, but we're still dedicated to that welcoming and a feeling of belonging for our students, making sure our students are all where they need to be. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank
Yeah.
you both so much for sharing, and thank you both so much for being here today. This has
Thank you.
this has been
amazing.
really an honor for me. I've had such a great time talking to you guys.
Thank you so much.
It's always a pleasure,
Yeah.
Isabella.
All right, I have one last question for you.
Oh no.
I like to close out the episodes with kind of a fun question. So my question for the both of you today is, what is either your favorite or your most used emoji?
Oh. Ooh. I think this is kind of a random one, but I really use like the squid emoji a lot. It kind of, yeah, like the squid is kind of going like this in the emoji, and I feel like it's like a fighting stance. And I think it's just really silly, and I like to send it to my friends when I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, or just like there's not really any like strong emotion associated with it. It just is something silly I like to send to my friends.
Mine's just a thinking emoji. 'Cause
Oh.
I'm more of a problem solver. I really am. Even my kids tell me, and my grandkids now, Grandma, does everything has to be a counseling session for you? Does everything has to be a problem solving? Well, life is about problem solving. So the thinking emoji, and two, that's how I approach life, is how can I look at everything from a different angle to come up with a better solution? So that's me.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you both again so much. It's been great having you here today.
Thank you.
you.